Hello, Taurus. Welcome back. I'm Selena Hart, and I want you to breathe with me for a moment before we begin. Because today's message isn't just an update, it's a shift. One that's been building quietly beneath the surface. And whether or not you've been consciously aware of it, your soul has been feeling the tremors. The 26th of July marks a turning point, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in the kind that slowly unravels what you thought was fixed. Life, which you've worked so hard to steady and stabilize, is now pulling at the edges of your comfort zone, not to punish you, but to invite you into something more alive, more honest, more in alignment with who you're becoming. You may not have asked for this disruption. You may even feel resistance rising in your chest. Akiet, not now. Not again. But Taurus, what's coming isn't chaos. It's transformation. It's the kind of deep recalibration that breaks apart old structures, not because they were wrong, but because they've finished teaching you what they came to teach. This energy asks something sacred of you, not control. Not a perfectly laid out plan. Not predictability. It asks for your willingness to release the need to know every next step. It asks for flexibility, not as weakness, but as wisdom. You've always been strong. You've always endured. But this is about learning how to bend without breaking. How to let go of your grip on certainty and open yourself to something better, something unexpected. Your creativity is being called forward, not just in art or hobbies, but in how you think, how you move through change, how you solve problems that don't have neat answers. This isn't about reinventing yourself overnight. It's about approaching life like a canvas that's been wiped clean by the storms. And now it's your turn to paint again with more color, more feeling, more truth than ever before. So if you feel the ground shifting beneath your feet, that's not a sign you're losing stability. It's a sign you're entering the next phase. The version of you that no longer clings to what's familiar out of fear, but steps toward what's possible out of trust. And trust, dear Taurus, is the soil in which your new life will grow. Let's keep going. And now, Taurus, let's talk about the ground beneath your feet, your work, your money, your ability to build something that lasts. Because while the emotional winds may be stirring change around you, there's a steady hum of clarity rising from your foundations. Your finances, though perhaps not flashy or loud, are quietly stabilizing, not because of luck, but because of the thoughtful decisions you've been making behind the scenes. You've been patient. You've been deliberate. You've said no to the unnecessary and yes to what truly matters. That discernment is paying off. This moment carries the energy of reward, not in the form of grand gestures or overnight success, but through subtle confirmations that you're on the right path. An email you weren't expecting. A call that shifts the direction of a stalled project. A door you thought was closed, suddenly nudged open. These aren't coincidences. They're the fruit of seeds you planted long ago, efforts that may have felt invisible at the time, but were always being counted. So if you've been waiting for a sign to move forward on that side business, that career pivot, that risky but meaningful idea that's been tugging at your heart, this is it. The green light is here, not because everything is certain, but because your foundation is strong enough now to carry the unknown. But don't rush it. Build with intention. Anchor each step with clarity. You're not gambling, you're evolving. Every choice you make now should serve the long game. The work you're doing is more than a paycheck. It's part of your purpose unfolding. And that's why it's so important to stay grounded even as things begin to accelerate. The pace is picking up. Yes, but so is your ability to lead it. You're no longer reacting from fear or scarcity. You're responding from alignment. And that shift, it changes everything. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just have to keep showing up with integrity, clarity, and a willingness to grow beyond what once felt safe. And trust me, Taurus, what's coming will be worth every ounce of discipline you've poured into this path. Let's keep going. And Taurus, now we turn to the quiet, tender ache of the heart, the part of you that has loved deeply, lost silently, and maybe even questioned whether love, in its truest form, was ever meant for you. This season of your life is not about flashy romance or surface-level affection. It's about healing, about the slow, sacred mending of the places within you that have been bruised by broken promises, unmet expectations, and the silent weight of emotional labor that was never returned. There is someone in your life now, or coming soon, who is trying, truly trying, to rebuild trust where it was once fractured. They may not have all the right words, and their steps toward you might still carry the clumsiness of guilt or fear, but their intention is real. This is someone who sees your strength, not as something to exploit, but as something to respect. They know they've caused harm, even if they didn't mean to, and now they're offering their effort, their patience, and their presence. But Taurus, rebuilding trust is not a one-time conversation, it's a process. It will require uncomfortable honesty, not just about what happened, but about what you both want moving forward. You will need to speak the truths you've held back out of fear of rocking the boat. You will need to listen without preparing to defend. And most of all, you will need to decide if your heart still has space for this connection, or if it's time to lay it to rest with grace. For those of you walking this path alone right now, know this: being single is not the absence of love. It is the preparation for a love that is worth your softness. There's an energy around you that suggests someone new may enter your orbit, someone whose generosity is not performative, but natural. This is a person who won't try to fix you, change you, or compete with your independence. They'll simply show up with consistency, with warmth, and with a sense of emotional safety that may feel foreign at first, but deeply, deeply right. Still, not every connection deserves to stay. There are ties that have worn thin, relationships that once had meaning but now only drain you. If you've been holding on out of habit, obligation, or fear of starting over, this is your reminder that letting go is not failure, it is self-respect. Protecting your emotional energy doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. You don't owe anyone your time if they consistently leave you feeling small, confused, or not enough. And perhaps most importantly, remember that love is not always grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the quiet check-ins. The way someone remembers what makes you laugh, the way they make space for your silence. You deserve a love that feels like home, not a battlefield. So if it's meant to stay, let it stay. But if it's meant to end, bless it for what it taught you, and let it go with peace. Taurus, your heart is learning how to feel again without fear, how to receive without guilt, and how to love not from survival, but from wholeness. That is the real miracle unfolding now. Now, Taurus, let's talk about the vessel that carries you through all of this: your body, your mind, your nervous system. Because transformation doesn't just happen in your thoughts or your heart. It also happens in the way your body holds stress, in the tension behind your jaw, in the way you breathe or forget to. Right now, your guides are asking you to come home to yourself, in the most literal sense, to remember that healing isn't just emotional, it's physical, it's energetic. It lives in the way you nourish yourself, the way you move, the way you pause. Your health is calling for gentle, intentional attention, not urgency, not panic, but conscious recommitment, especially when it comes to the routines you've been meaning to return to. This isn't about overhauling your life overnight, it's about the small, consistent rituals that help you feel grounded in your own skin, that dental appointment you've been putting off, that neglected exercise plan that once made you feel strong. Now is the time to reweave those threads into your everyday life. Your physical strength is returning, but only if you meet it halfway. Stretch, breathe, walk outside, choose rest when rest is the medicine, and movement when movement is the release. And while we often focus so much on output, on productivity, achievement, external progress, your emotional health is asking for equal space. If you've been feeling heavier than usual, more tired, more distant, know that your system might simply be overloaded. And the antidote isn't more pushing, it's more presence. It's giving yourself permission to stop trying to fix everything and just be with what is. One unexpected form of healing that wants to reach you now is through connection with animals. Whether it's the quiet gaze of a pet who senses your unspoken grief, or a moment of laughter with a playful companion. There is something sacred about how animals hold space for us. They don't ask questions. They don't expect explanations. They just offer companionship that asks nothing in return. Let yourself receive that. Let those simple interactions soften what's been hard in you. Taurus, your strength has never only been about endurance. It's also in your capacity to slow down, to tend to your inner world as tenderly as you do others. This week, your health is not a side note, it's a mirror. And when you honor it, when you nourish it, you'll find that everything else, love, work, even your sense of purpose starts to align more easily. Because a cared-for body becomes a trusted foundation for a liberated life. And finally, Taurus, let's come back to where it all began, family. The place where your values were shaped, where your wounds may have formed, and where the deepest parts of you still seek belonging. This week, you are being called not just to participate, but to lead. The Emperor energy is rising within you not as a dictator, but as a calm, steady presence that others look to when things get chaotic. Whether you realize it or not, you're becoming a grounding force for the people around you. You hold a quiet authority, the kind that doesn't demand obedience, but earns trust through consistency and care. There may be conversations that arise this week with family members, some tender, some tense. Old dynamics might resurface, especially ones you thought had been buried long ago. But they're not coming back to hurt you, they're showing up to be healed. You may find yourself revisiting family traditions, memories, or even stories that hold keys to parts of yourself you've forgotten. Don't rush through these moments. They're opportunities for reconnection, for reclaiming your role, not as the one who always keeps the peace, but as someone who knows how to stand firm in truth without losing compassion. Still, not everyone will meet you at that level. There may be someone, a sibling, a parent, or even a distant relative who brings friction, who triggers your patience, who doesn't know how to meet you where you are. And here's the truth, you don't have to fix them. You don't have to prove your growth. What you can do is choose how you respond. Your steadiness is your strength. Your calm is your protection. And sometimes, the most powerful leadership you can offer is choosing not to match someone else's chaos. In your circle of friends, too, you might notice shifting tides. Some connections are deepening, growing more honest, more mutual. Others may feel like they're drifting or reaching their natural conclusion. Don't fear this evolution. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to want relationships that pour into you, just as much as you've poured into them. And before we close, Taurus, don't forget your lucky numbers for this moment in time. 4. Shalu, Arshiba, Sanshidyo, Wusher, and 61. Keep them close. Whether they show up in small synchronicities or bold signs, they're a quiet reminder that the universe is in conversation with you even in the everyday. You're not just navigating this week, you're transforming within it. Keep walking, keep trusting, and remember, the roots you tend now will become the peace you live later. So, Taurus, as we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to pause, not just to reflect, but to recognize how far you've come. This week isn't just about predictions or possibilities. It's about a quiet transformation that's already taking place inside you. You're no longer the person who needs certainty to feel safe. You're learning to trust the unseen, to walk forward, even when the path isn't fully lit. That's real growth. That's real courage. You're stepping into a season where your patience becomes power, your softness becomes strength, and your past no longer defines your future. Whether it's in love, in your work, your health, or your most personal relationships, you are being invited to lead, not with control, but with clarity, not with fear, but with grounded faith. And remember, you don't have to rush the process. You're allowed to take your time, to feel everything, to rest when needed. Healing isn't linear. Progress isn't always visible, but day by day, choice by choice, you are building a life that reflects your worth. Keep showing up. Keep trusting your inner wisdom. And above all, don't forget, you are more capable, more loved, and more supported than you realize. I'm Selena Hart, and I'll meet you right here again when your soul is ready for the next message. Until then, take care of your light. It's needed.